This episode is for you if you've ever felt stuck, not because you haven't done enough, but because you feel that something deeper is at play. Rebekah Kiger is a former financial advisor turned trauma-informed money coach, and her work is all about helping people feeling safe to receive. In this conversation, we talk about emotional roots of money blocks, how unhealed trauma shows up in your business, and how strategy is not the answer when your nervous system is not on board. It's honest, healing, and full of light bulb moments. Let's get started. This is the Leap, Live, and Lemonade podcast. Hi, I'm your host, Esther Godor. 12 years ago, I took a big leap. I left my corporate job. I moved into a new country and started a business from scratch in my fifth language. Today, I run a boutique launch and systems agency, helping ambitious entrepreneurs build smart and scalable digital businesses on Kajabi without having to do everything by themselves. This is your go-to place with honest stories, actionable strategies, and real talk around building a business and life you love. Your best life and success story are still ahead. Let's write them together. Welcome, Rebekah. Hi, how are you?
I'm great, Esther. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm super excited. I've been waiting for this episode. When we did our quick prep call, I wasn't in a great place money-wise. And now I'm luckily in a different place slightly, but I will still bring that story in today because I think our listeners will appreciate it. But before we go there, please tell our listeners, viewers, what do you do and why you do what you do?
Yeah, I love that. So I am a trauma-informed master money and mindset coach with over 18 years experience helping people reach their financial goals. So essentially what I do is I work with people on both a strategic and an energetic perspective, meaning there's strategies and things that we can do, of course, on like a 3D level, but then we also have energetic components, mindset components, nervous system components that come into our relationship with money. So I help people essentially expand their capacity to receive more abundance so that they can make more, save more, and finally live more and experience more. And why I do this is because, I think most of us who are in this coaching space, we are doing this because there's something that we had to overcome, an experience that we had to deal with, right, and figure out through trial and error on our own. And we want to save people the suffering of having to go through all of that, right? Mm-hmm. And so really that my story is no different. I was raised below the poverty line. So my mom was a single mom with 7 kids. And then I became a young teen mom myself. So I got pregnant at 17 and I had my daughter at 18. I repeated the same cycles. I was on government assistance. I live here in the US, food stamps. I didn't know where my daughter's next meal was going to come from. And so obviously a lot has transpired since then, and we can definitely get into that piece. But really, I know what it's like to be on both ends of the spectrum. I know what it's like to have nothing and to question if I was going to have a roof over my head, on a very consistent basis. And I also now know what it's like to live from a place of freedom and flow and having the time freedom to do what I want, the impact, in the world that I want to make because I have nurtured and healed my relationship with money. So I know what it's like to be on both sides of the coin. And I just want to help as many people as possible to get to the other side of wherever it is that they're feeling stuck in their financial life so that they can experience the freedom that I have now.
Wow. Let's go if you are okay with sharing more about your journey. Like it sounds amazing. You are not now on the other side and you know how it is to be on the struggling end. How did you end up being the person you are now? What was your path before in terms of career? You mentioned the family side, your being a young mom, but I also understand you weren't a money mindset coach from the get-go. So what did you do before doing what you do now?
Yeah, great question. We kind of skipped a couple steps there, right? So, after I had my daughter at 18, I got a job at a local bank. And so
Mhm.
That's really where my career in finance started. I started off as a part-time teller making $9 an hour. And I just found my pay stub the other day and I made $9,000 in my very first year of business with a daughter at
Mhm.
home. So that kind of paints the picture of where I was. And the only thing that I did learn about finances when I was a child was that hard work is the thing that's going to get you to success. That's what I learned. That's what I believed. And so I thought, well, I have no other option. I have a daughter I have to provide for. I can work hard. I don't know anything
Mhm.
else but that. So I did. I started my corporate hamster wheel, rat race, if you will. And I just worked as hard as I possibly could. I learned from everybody around me. I was like a sponge. If someone told me to jump, I asked how high. I didn't care. I was listening to everything that everyone said around me and trying to soak it all up. And essentially, that got me so far. I did actually start to create a level of success. And every year I was making more and more money. But it got to this place where I was trading so much time for money. I was working 60 hours a week and I was
Mhm.
losing all of this time with my daughter, right? You have to imagine, like, I just had a baby and she's not seeing me because I'm working so much. And then it started to get to a point where I was so stressed out and exhausted and burned out that on the weekends, all I wanted to do was sleep or go out and party. It's like I wanted to escape my life, right? Because I really felt like I was sacrificing and giving everything to this career. So I kind of got to this crossroads about 5 or 6 years in to doing this, and I was making more money than I had imagined possible at the time, which
Mhm.
was about 50 or 60 thousand dollars a year. And so for someone coming from where I came from in my early 20s, I thought I made it. I was like, this is it. This is the peak. Like, I'm doing better than everyone that I had known growing up at the time. And I was like, this is it. But as
Mhm.
fate would allow, my mentor came into my life about that time. He was my boss. And he saw more in me than I saw in myself. And he was living the life. He was making multiple six figures a year. He was, working less than 20 hours a week. He was a financial
Mhm.
advisor at the time. And he asked me a question that I'll never forget. And this might be something to start to contemplate for you as you're listening into this as well and see what comes up for you. So when he asked me a question, he said, Rebekah, if you could make any amount of money in the world, what would it be? And no one had ever asked me this before. Like, my definition of money was you go to work and you just get paid however much that company wants to pay you. Like, I didn't even fathom that you had any ability to participate in this conversation.
Mhm.
That's how, like, my money mindset was back then. And so I lowballed him a couple times. And anyways, eventually we settled on a number of $100,000. And I thought, I don't know.
Mhm.
I guess I'll just borrow his belief because I had none for myself. And I thought, sure, I'll make $100,000. Thought it was like a pipe dream, right? And then 9 months later, I had hit my first six-figure year after working on, these SMART goals with him and getting to work towards this goal. And that's when I realized the power of manifestation. That's when I realized that there's something to this. And he was
Mhm.
right. And so I ended up continuing on in the financial world. I was a financial advisor by that time and working with people, helping them reach their goals, making a lot of money doing it. But again, trading lots of time for money. And
Yeah.
so I got to this place where I was making more money than I had ever imagined possible. And I sat down with my boss for a performance review. And this was a little over a decade into my career. And I had just made the bank hundreds of thousands of dollars the previous year,
Mhm.
if not more than that. I brought in millions to the bank. And I remember sitting down. I had just hit one of my biggest months ever, and I had hit a bonus that was almost a six-figure income month for me. And I
Mhm.
remember sitting down with my boss, and the only thing I wanted to hear, Esther, and you guys will all resonate with this, like, you know how you work so hard for something, and the only thing you want is just for somebody to tell you that you did a good job. Like, I just want to be acknowledged for everything that I've been sacrificing, right? And he sat me down and he goes, great job, on your numbers, whatever, kind of breeze over that part. But then he goes, whoever they is upstairs, I just have to let you know that they don't care about what you did last week, last month, and definitely not last year. The only thing that matters is what you're producing today and moving forward. So what's in your pipeline? Like, what do you have on the schedule? And I just remember almost having like an out of body experience because it was like a flashback of all the things that I had done for this organization and these companies that I was working for and how much time I had sacrificed and given of my daughter and how much mental health I was sacrificing and my body and my
Mhm.
adrenals and all of the things that I was giving to this company only for them to say, it's not enough. And I thought in that moment,
Mm.
I'm leaving this. This is incredibly toxic. I can't do this anymore. And so a few months later, again, as fate would have it, I just believe that everything happened for me for a reason. I was introduced to personal growth and development, and I learned that coaching was a thing. I didn't even
Mhm.
know that before. And so a series of events happened that led me to essentially quitting my job and going all in on my business and wanting to
Mhm.
be a financial coach, wanting to do this, full time. And so that's really what led me here is seeing that this system is completely broken, that we can give all of ourselves to a job, to a career, to a corporation for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And I've seen it,
Mhm.
many, many times, only for them to turn around and tell us, like, hey, here's, a gold watch and a pension check. And by the way, on average, our life expectancy in retirement is 3.6 years. So we're going to work for someone else for our
Mhm.
entire lives and not fully live our lives for 3.5 years of freedom in retirement. And I just made the decision that that wasn't going to be me. And so that's what brought me here
Mhm.
today.
Wow, amazing. Would you say it was the moment when you made the decision? Was it super clear for you right there and then? Like the way you explain it, it's like the shutter went down and you completely made the shift. Was it this easy to actually leave it all, or were there some nuances in this
Course,
story?
there were so many nuances. So, yeah, I think that it's important to note that I didn't realize, and this is one of the things that brought me to doing the work that I'm doing today, that I was going to bring, because everybody thinks, yeah, quitting your job, right? Like we all like envision that if you're working, right? Or maybe some of you are just entrepreneurs and you never worked for anyone else. And God bless you if you have, because I wish I would have went that route. But no, I learned a lot of lessons. But my point is, we all envision like walking in and just being like, I quit, like I'm done with this, right? But no one
Mhm.
tells you how hard it's going to be to make that transition from employee to an entrepreneur. And no one told me that I was going to take all of the patterns of scarcity, all of the patterns of fear, all the overworking, all the hustling, all the grounding with me into my business. With that, I was working, late into the night, taking my laptop into bed, not resting, not recovering, like just doing all of the things and continuing that hard work equals success type of mindset. And that led me to another burnout, which led me to my very
Mhm.
first kind of spiritual awakening, where I realized that this, if I want to step into living a soul powered life, which is the name of my podcast, right? But like that's the concept behind what it is that I'm doing in the world. I can no longer do this from that place
Mhm.
of hustle and grind. And so it led me into spiritual growth, understanding how the nervous system works and why it is that I was so programmed and patterned in a way where I was like, I didn't know who I was without struggle. I didn't know who I was without working hard. I didn't know who I was without trying to prove my worth. And
Mhm.
I really had to sit with myself for quite some time and really start to practice the things that I was learning before I actually was able to surrender and make more while doing less.
Yeah, I feel this so much. My thought when leaving the corporate world was exactly that. I just need to leave this place and start on my own, and then I won't check emails on a Saturday in the middle of the night. I won't worry. I won't have sleepless nights about what's gonna happen in a meeting. And I had to actually start my own stuff. I even changed countries and I built out with my very first attempt, I built out exactly the same. And only then I did realize, oh my God, it wasn't the place, it was me. It also it also helped me understand that wow, I could have even changed this before leaving. I didn't have to push myself uh to that extent because nobody really cared. I saw people not pushing that hard and still doing super well in that world. And I was just pushing because I had that habit, or it was an ingrained belief that this equaled good job, this equaled success. And yeah, I totally repeated it. And I would say that now I have been running my own business for 10 years, and I still catch myself sometimes in that pattern. I have come a long way, a very long way, but I still catch myself thinking that wow, this was this was almost too easy. What more can I do? Can I spend another 2 hours here in front of my computer to justify what I just made and stuff like that? How did you leave that behind? How did you let go of that?
Yeah, I love that. And thank you for sharing that because it's really, I think, important to shed light on these conversations because it does, especially online business. I think this is such a glorified space where we're watching people, go from zero to $10 million dollars in what seems like 45 minutes. It's like,
Mm,
it doesn't really work that way for most of us, right? There are those unicorns who
yeah.
are going to be able to create this fast success and things. But what you were describing is what I came to the realization of, which was you can travel all around the world. You can move to every different state or country. You can move jobs a million times, but no matter where you go, you're going to take you with you. And that was the one thing that I realized was this isn't an external job. This is an internal job.
Mm,
And so I went into the field of, as I mentioned, like studying the mind. I became a master practitioner. So far, I would start to make some progress. And I was seeing the growth, but it was almost like I was still taking one step forward and, five steps back. That's what it felt like.
mm,
It was like this
mm,
push pull. And I remember like I was looking on Instagram and I saw this post that said, "Does your nervous system feel safe with abundance?" And it was like a light bulb kind of went off and I was like, "Wait, what?" Like this was the only thing that I hadn't explored at that time. And so
mm,
that's really what led me down the rabbit hole of diving into like the nervous system specifically and polyvagal theory and how trauma impacts our finances, whether it's big T or little t trauma. And I became obsessed really with learning all of that as I typically do when it
mm,
comes to new things like this. I geek out and get so excited about it, but I really did go down this rabbit hole and I started applying the things that I was learning and only then did things start to shift for the better in the long term. And that's when I
mm,
started seeing, okay, more money was coming in while I was doing less. And I was able to rest and I was able to meditate and I was able to do my breathwork sessions and give myself space. And then that's truly what led me to where I am now, which is, again, working as many hours as I want to every day, having passive streams of income that support me, growing my business, living in this, multiple six-figure type of income that allows for me to really do the things that I want to do in the world and give back in a powerful way. But it wasn't until I learned about those deeper sets of programs within the nervous system that things actually really
mm.
began to change.
How would you describe if that's okay for you to share, your most difficult moments before you learned about and understood and built in practical solutions into your life?
Yeah, I love the question. So I am no stranger to living in survival mode.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that a lot of people will resonate with this. I didn't know this until I started studying the nervous system. But my physical body, because of the way that I was raised, how much scarcity and fear that I grew up in, as well as there were traumatic experiences for me as a child. There was a lot of abuse, spiritual, mental, physical, emotional, sexual, like the amount of abuse, big T and little t trauma that I experienced as a child,
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea the impact that it had on me. And what I didn't realize until I started understanding this work is that my body did not know what it felt like to be at rest and peace and safety. I didn't have an
Mm-hmm.
understanding of what that was like because from the time that I was a child, my baseline was that of fear, scarcity, chaos, the world is not safe. And so that is really the thing that I had to let go of. I had to understand how to get my physical body out of survival mode because I don't think anyone really understands until they get there that you could achieve all of the things that society deems as successful and you can still feel like you have done nothing and you can still
Mm-hmm.
feel empty and you can still feel like you're not good enough. And it's not until you reach those heights, and I'm sure you have experienced this too, Esther, where you've hit a goal and you've hit these big milestones and you've achieved these really successful things. And then it's like, that's it. Like I don't feel any different. I still feel like myself and myself
Mm-hmm.
isn't that great right now, right? Whenever I was experiencing this and living in survival mode. So when I first quit my job, there was a lot of fear around, did I make the right decision? And I was living in complete and utter survival mode. And that's where the working harder and the grinding and the hustling, because I thought, well, if I did it once, I could do it again. That I think was really where I needed to be in order to see that, again, all of these things, all of these external things that we think are going to change everything, they don't. It's the internal. It's the internal that's going to make a difference. And so in those really dark moments where I was questioning myself, questioning my purpose, questioning God, questioning the universe, questioning whether or not I even had anything to say, or whether or not anybody
Mm-hmm.
wanted to listen to me, or that I have a message. A lot of those thoughts were, who would want to listen to someone like me? I mean, look at where I came from, right? Like, why would somebody want to listen to, I was a teen mom on government assistance. I should be homeless or broke somewhere. Like, statistically speaking, I shouldn't be where I am. So why would they want to listen to me? And
Mm-hmm.
so I had to work through all of those things and realize that I do have a message to share and that I actually am on the other side. And it wasn't really until I got to the other side and I looked around at how beautiful of a life that I had created. And then I realized I'm kind of alone in this. Like, I've done this, and I think
Mm-hmm.
we do have to work on ourselves first. But then I looked around and I was like looking at all the suffering in the world, and I'm like, there are people who are still where I was, 4 years ago, that I need to go and
Yeah.
help, that I need to go and spread this message and spread this word so that they can achieve that success. And so I think it's like we get to the top of a mountain as coaches, right? And then our job is not to sit up there and be holier than thou and hey, look at what I've created. It's like, okay, we're up at the top of the mountain and we see this incredible view, and that's what leadership is. It's like I see something that no one else has seen, so now I'm going to
Yeah.
go down and I'm going to bring other people up with me so they can see this too.
It's it's also when you are like we are at the top of the mountain. I feel like even though I have been able to help so many people already, I don't continuously feel that I'm at the top of the mountain. I feel like it's more like sometimes I'm up, sometimes I'm down. But even when I'm down, I need to be able to hold space for those people who count on me. So how do you handle that? Does it ever happen that you don't feel like on top of the mountain? And how do you get through those?
Oh, 1,000%. I mean, I was crying to one of my business best friends on Tuesday about something, and struggling with something. And so it's
Mhm.
not that when we're at the top of the mountain, that means that we're no longer human and that we are like these just untouchable gods that like don't experience any human emotions or anything. What I have learned about growth and healing, especially as it relates to the nervous system, is that essentially you, so the way I see it is, let's say, for instance, you started off like me, where you were maybe 100% in fear and scarcity and lack. Okay. Then
Mhm.
what happens is you slowly, if we look at it in terms of percentages, you slowly start to use these tools that you're learning and your personal growth. You start to really dive into this work on a deeper level and start doing this inner work. And so then you move to, let's say, 10%, abundance and overflow and joy and happiness and good emotions, right? And you might not be starting at 100% scarcity. I just was. So I'm going to explain it that way because it makes sense, right? But then you do more of this work. You still have 90% to go though. And so a lot of
Mhm.
people look at healing as though, oh, like, let's say you've gone 50% of the way. Well, once you reach that 51%, it becomes momentous because that's when you access what's called your dominant vibration. Your
Mhm.
dominant vibration is what, and I'm not sure like how deep you go into these kinds of topics, but like your dominant vibration is really about the signal that you are emitting out into the universe on the majority of the time, basically. And so that is designed to help you see, and you're going to basically get back a reflection of what your dominant vibration is. And
Mhm.
so that's going to tell you where your dominant vibration is set, if that makes sense. Basically, let's say, to kind of bring this point home, you are doing this work and you have done, you're 50% of the way healed, and you're 50% of the time you are in this place of overflow and abundance. That doesn't mean that the other 50% of the time that you're not, that you're doing something wrong or that you're broken because it's not 100% of the time. That's actually not even the goal. The goal is not to be 100% of the time perfect because you
Mhm.
wouldn't be human. So even me now, I'm probably 95% of the time in overflow and abundance and in safety within my nervous system, but there still is that 5% or 10% of the time where I have fear, where I have scarcity, where those old programs do come up. And so the biggest thing that you do when you experience those kinds of things is just bring in self-compassion and saying, look at how far
Mhm.
we've come, not at how far we have to go. Because there's people, so if you get to the top of this mountain, there's people who have not even started their journey yet that you can help them get up, even if you start to fall a little bit, because you're going to be ahead of them, right? And that's the
Mhm.
goal. It's not ahead of them in some egotistical way. It's I've already started this journey. Let me help you come up with me. And then guess what? There's going to be another mountain to climb. So you might not be, at your ultimate goal yet, but you
Mhm.
can absolutely help people from the vantage point that you're at right now, even if you are struggling still with these things. It's normal.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely there are so many more mountains to climb. Yeah, let's go into this about dominant vibration. It's so interesting what you just said, that it's the energy you are putting out to the world. I notice sometimes that I'm totally convinced that I have some sort of dominant vibration, and then the world would remind me of actually it not being the case. Like my husband calls me the fixer. He's like, you don't have to be the fixer all the time. Like at 11 o'clock, we have a trip coming up in August. We are going to London, and we had to confirm to someone else when we are going. And I told him last night at 11 that I thought it was a good time to look at flights and deciding and actually buying them. And he was like, we are both literally brain dead. I don't think this is the right moment. Can't you just stop being the fixer and watch a new episode of whatever series with me, and can we just get back to this tomorrow? And he's an amazing reminder in my life constantly on this. But I think it applies to, like, sometimes I'm feeling like, i'm I'm on top of things are going so well. I'm really in control of everything. And then someone in my life would give me the feedback that I didn't realize that I should have had more compassion towards them. So what is this about the dominant vibration? How can we actually figure out or understand what our dominant vibration is? How can we go behind what we might think it is and understand what it actually is? And what can we do about it?
I love this question, and I have a really deep contemplative thought around this. So let's see where this ends up going. So our dominant vibration essentially is the frequency that we are emitting out into the universe the majority of the time. And so this term was actually coined by, I believe, Abraham Hicks. And essentially it just means, again, everything. So Nikola Tesla's quote is saying that if you want to understand the universe, think in terms of energy and vibration, right? So I'm operating under the assumption that everything in this world is energy. And we can't see it all, right? Like you can't see radio waves. The very first person who created the radio, they wanted to put him in an insane asylum because, like, you can't see radio waves, but we all listen to the radio or we listen to podcasts.
Yeah.
And right now, that's how we're communicating. So just because we can't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist, right? So we're talking about quantum physics and the theories behind all of that right now. So essentially, we are all emitting a vibration and a frequency, and this is based on our thoughts, our beliefs, our upbringing, our stories around a certain topic. So let's say it's money, specifically. You may consciously want money, right, from your conscious
Mm-hmm.
mind, but if your vibration, if your vibrational frequency is set to fear, scarcity, lack, all of those things, then that's the energy that you're
Yeah.
going to be emitting to the universe.
Mm.
Then what happens as a result, because the universe doesn't have the ability to override our free will. We are here on this planet to learn lessons, to embody new experiences, and we get to choose. It's a co-creative process. Remember I said earlier, I didn't even think we had a say in how much money we make. We do, because we're a co-creator in this, and we are the ones that can create our own reality. And so essentially the universe doesn't, it's not biased towards what it is that you want out of your life. So if you're emitting the frequency of lack and scarcity it acts like a radio wave and goes out and magnetizes experiences to say, hey, here, you're focused on lack and scarcity. Here's another experience
Hmm.
of lack. Here's another experience of scarcity. Here's a bill you didn't expect. Here's a client that pulled out, right? Like, because that's what you're emitting. And so when you can change your dominant vibration, and this is done, through time, this isn't like something that you do right away, but we can always change our frequency in a second, but your dominant vibration is changed over time. But when you put out into the universe that of abundance and overflow and gratitude, and you emit that frequency, then you're going to get back a reflection
Hmm.
of other new things to be grateful for and new things to feel abundant about and new things to feel overflow about. Because the universe doesn't give us in life what we want, it gives us a reflection of who it is that we believe that we are. And so that what if you want to know where your dominant vibration is set, you look around your life. And if your life is not playing out in the way that you want it to, then again, it starts with us. This is the law of vibration. It's a universal law. We can't do it any other way. Nothing external is going to change until we change the frequency that we're emitting to the universe. And that's how we get a reflection back of what it is that we want.
Okay. Yeah. So you can't fake it, right?
Not fake it, not with the universe. Yeah. Yeah. And you can fake it till you make it. Like that's part of the process sometimes. Sometimes we do have to be a little delusional. Sometimes we do have, right, what society would deem as delusional. Sometimes we have
Yeah.
to look at the face of our situation and say, I don't care that I'm living in this situation. I know that I can create something new. And so I'm going to emit the frequency of the new paradigm until I see it in my reality. Most people give up
Mm.
though, because what happens is we live in a 3D reality, which takes time to manifest things. You're not going to just think of $1 million and it pop into your lap. Because if you were to do that, then you would also, every time you think of a tiger or a lion or a bear, it would also pop into your lap. So we don't want that, right? The universe isn't here to just give us the very first thing we think of. But as the
Yeah.
more that we put it out there and the more that we focus on it, that is what determines whether or not it's going to come back to us.
When would you say this you really found the first found the taste of this? When was it when it first started working out for you? How long it took from actually starting to look into this to being able to mostly operate at this level?
Yeah, I love the question. So we're all manifesting on a daily basis, whether you realize it or not. You are currently magnetizing the things that you are a dominant vibration to, because we
Hmm.
essentially will magnetize the things that we are an energetic match to. So my very first conscious experience of it was when I met my mentor all those years ago. So that's probably, I don't know, over 13 years ago at this time, but I didn't know that's what I did. I just kind of trusted in him. But it really was when I started studying the mind and the mind-body connection and quantum physics. So this is within the last 5 years or so that I've been deep on these topics. And
Hmm.
so as fate would have it, I say this, but it's true. It's like my husband is a master electrician, and so it really clicked for me. Of course, I would marry someone who understands electrical theory because and energy and all of that, right? Because I'm the type of person who likes to go really deep with this stuff. And so I was
Hmm.
having a conversation with my husband about how electricity works. And we as humans are conductors of electricity. And so it was really when he explained how the wiring in your house works. And then I made this deep connection to what we're just talking about the dominant vibration, about the fact that that's exactly what's happening with us. So we're emitting these frequencies and we're getting these things back. And so I would honestly say probably in 2020 or so is really when I started like embodying this as my way of living. And I would just
Hmm.
declare and decide things, and then they would happen. And then I would start with small things, and then it started moving into, money and manifesting other things. And so I would declare and decide, and then I would hold the vibration that that thing was going to happen. And I started manifesting things honestly out of what seemed like thin air. I received the money to put a new deck on my house, and like I had been visualizing sitting out on a beautiful my dream deck for a few months. It was probably like 3 or 4 months. I had been seeing the image of this. I've been putting out the frequency, and then literally I received the money to do that. And it was crazy how it actually happened. So it's like it's so funny because when you really start to live by this, you can start small and maybe don't do this with something that's going to catastrophically change your life if it doesn't go right, because that's not going to
Mm-hmm.
be so great for the nervous system if it doesn't work out, because there is a level of belief that you have to have. So even starting small with this and just, visualizing and putting out the frequency and feeling gratitude for whatever it is that you want to bring in. Let's say you start with like a cup of coffee, a cup of free coffee, and you keep seeing it and you feel gratitude for it and you're emitting that frequency of like somebody's going to buy me a free coffee. I don't know when, but and I'm not attached to it. I'm not like looking for it, right? I'm not attached to it in that way, but I'm like, I know that somebody's going to buy me a free coffee. Like, I'm just going to get a free coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And then, sure enough, my daughter will come home and she's like, hey, mom, I got you this, coffee. Or I'll go to the store and it's like, oh, hey, we made an extra one. Do you want this? And so starting small like that is really going to be helpful for like those first steps if you're not used to living this way. So it goes from the cup of coffee to I want to manifest $100. Then I want to manifest $1,000. What about $10,000, right? What about $100,000? And you can kind of go up from there. But I would say realistically, the last like 4 years or so, 4 or 5 years is really when this has been like my way of living. And I would say that it's gotten to the place where this is just me now. Like this is how I live. My body is fully in congruency with it. So I would say it takes some time, but it takes some practice and some time as well. But I would
Mm-hmm.
say if you really dedicated yourself to this way of living for 6 months or a year, you would radically transform your entire life and see that you are the biggest piece of the puzzle into how you get to live your life.
I love that. I love how that sounds. You mentioned attachment, and I understand that can be a difficult part of the game because and even when we have seen stuff happening or not happening and we think we are used to it, but in entrepreneurship, especially when we tie our income to some launches, for example, and of course you can't start a whole launch without putting out a goal for it. And then how do you remove attachment in general, and in these cases when it's actually more like in your business, you're like, yeah, I gotta make 30,000 in this quarter or next week, whatever, with that launch. And yeah, you would say, yeah, if it doesn't happen, we just move on and we try again. It's all trial and error. But do you have a recipe for removing the attachment in the first place?
Yeah, so this is where the belief comes in. And I know you and I work with the same mentor. And one of the things that he says very often is it is your beliefs that shape your reality and not the other way around. And so I truly believe that. And so what happens, and again, this kind of does tie into the conversation of dominant vibration because your beliefs have a big portion of that. So if you're
Mm-hmm.
going into a launch and you do not, but there's not an iota of your being that believes that you're going to be able to do $30,000 in this launch, forget about it. You're not going to be able to detach from that because it's not possible without your belief behind it. And so this is where the starting small comes into play because it's
Mm-hmm.
just like if you ordered something on Amazon, right? Or you ordered something online. When you place that order, are you constantly calling Amazon and saying, like, when's it coming? When's my order coming? Like, is it coming? Is it not here yet? And like 5 minutes after you place the order, you're like, where is it? Where is it? No, you trust that Amazon got the order. They're gonna fulfill it. Sometimes it's delayed. Sometimes it doesn't come. I'm
Mm-hmm.
dealing with this right now. I ordered paper towels because I've been busy these last couple days and didn't.
Hmm.
I figured, well, if I just order it on Amazon, it'll be here in 2 days. Well, they're delayed. I'm like, I could have gone to the store and gotten them by now, right? It's a little irritating sometimes when things are delayed, but that's the same concept is like but I believe that that thing is going to come and it comes because that's how it works. So we in this society are so good at asking for things, right? And there's this
Mm-hmm.
phrase that's like, ask and you will receive. Ask and it is given. But see, we were taught to like ask incessantly, like just keep asking, keep asking, keep asking. And we don't actually do the other side of the equation, which is just allow the universe to bring it to you and actually receive it. So we'll sit
Hmm.
there and be like, God, please, 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 please bring this into my life. And yet we don't slow down. We're not in silence. We're not in stillness. We don't meditate to get an idea on what it is that we want to achieve. So, like, let's say that
Hmm.
you want $100,000, but the universe is like, okay, well, this isn't how it works. You don't just get it into your lap. So I'm going to give you a business idea that's going to help you generate the $100,000. But if you would just slow down and actually listen for it and maybe sit in silence, maybe do some meditating, maybe actually just be quiet for a minute instead of allowing all of this overstimulation that we're all a part of in this society to block all of that out. Well, maybe you got your answer, but you were too busy to even look at it. Now you're sitting here saying, what the hell? Like I asked for 100 grand and it's not here. So
Hmm.
the idea behind detachment is really having a level of trust and certainty in not only your ability to make it happen, but then also the ability for the universe. You have to make space for the universe to bring it into your reality. And
Hmm.
if you keep emitting, again, the dominant vibration of this isn't going to happen, this is pointless, they're never going to sign up, I'm never going to make this money, what do you think you're
Yeah.
going to receive a reflection back of? Does that help
Mm.
answer the question a bit?
Yeah, definitely. Making space for that is so important. And I think making space for when it happens, or actually celebrating that is super important too. I'm just realizing now something really big happened for me like a little bit more than a week ago, and I was kind of wishing for it, not even thinking it would be possible, but on the other hand I was like, yes, it will happen. I was telling my husband, I feel that we are just like a little bit away from something like this happening. And then it happened, but then it happening put me into another like fixer phase of, okay, so what's next? And I just realized I haven't allowed time for this one to actually sink in my head and understand that, wow, shit, it actually truly happened. Just for our listeners, to give you some context, in January, when I talked to Rebecca about preparing this meeting, it was a week when I had to ask my husband for €1,000 loan to be able to pay my taxes for the last part of 2024. And this was after having made my business having made more than 100K last year. And that's like crazy, because like I think in 2021 my business made 100 and different business, but I had 7 employees. So that was like, okay, after paying all those employees, there was not much left. But this last year I had no employees. So that's an amazing step forward. But how did I end up not even being able to pay my taxes in January? And we're going to go into this. How do you manage your money is actually another important piece, not just bringing that money. But last week, and this is just one of the contracts we recently signed, I signed a contract that this year will bring in close to 60,000, just a one client. So I'm like, my God, such a huge step, and and also I also realized that it didn't come out of blue. I have been working towards this over the last few years. But so far, my biggest contract of this type was like still less than 20,000. So this is a huge, amazing step. But now that it happened, I was like, okay, so now it's huge responsibility. I mean, we got to make sure that I have the right team, or I'm surrounding myself with the right people. And I didn't stop for a moment to appreciate that. And I understand that will be super important because this is not where I want to stop. I'm here to have more of this. But if I forget the of appreciation and celebration around it, this might just be a one-off weird instance, and this is not going to become my norm. This is just what I'm just saying it out loud and realizing it for myself. Yeah.
Yeah, well, first of all, congrats. That's so
Thank
incredible.
you.
You should be so proud of yourself for that. That's amazing. And that is such a huge manifestation for you. You should be
Mm.
so proud of yourself. And what you're talking about is so common and so normal. And this is what I'm talking about when I talk about getting to the top of the mountain. What a lot of us don't do once we achieve a big goal like that is we don't pause, we don't stop, we don't look around and take in the moment. Like, can you imagine that you just climb to the top of this incredible mountain and the only thing you can think about is going and climbing the next? And this is the cycle that a lot of us perpetuate. It's like, because it stems from this belief that nothing that we ever do is good enough, right? Because that's what happens when we rely on these external things, right? And so what you're noticing is how the celebration piece is so important, because there is a part of you that needs to see that all of this hard work that you have been putting in is valid and it's
Mm.
appreciated and it's accepted and it is celebrated. It's not to celebrate just to celebrate. It's celebrating to bring the part of you that has been doing all of this on your behalf, right? This incredible part of you has manifested this, to see that she's seen and she's heard, and it's
Mm.
okay to pause. It's okay to take in the moment. You've gotten to the top of this mountain. Stop for a second and take in the glory of what you just achieved. And the reason that this is so important is because, can you imagine, like, so we all have, shadow work to be done, and that's a lot of what we're talking about here. If you haven't heard that term before, it's just all of the inner work, right? And so a lot of this stems from our inner children, right? Like our inner child not being seen, not being appreciated. And that's a lot of times why we work so hard and we grind and we hustle, because we're trying to prove, that we're worthy and that we deserve
Mm.
this. But what happens when you pause and you celebrate is you show that part of you that you are deserving and you are worthy. And look at what you've created, because you're incredible and you're amazing. And then that part of you is like, okay, cool. I want to keep going. I want to do more. But if we don't stop and make that pause, can you imagine a child who's like overachieving, which so many of us are, right? When we were kids, like we're like, could you imagine like a child, or if you have children, your child coming up to you and being like, look, mom, I did all of this. I did something really, really cool. Like, I'm so proud. And then being like, yeah, okay. Well, what are you doing next? Like, what are you working on next? Like, can you
Yeah.
imagine that, right?
Or, okay,
And
but have you?
exactly. Like, okay, no, and brush over the accomplishments. That's exactly what my boss did. So you're so right
Yeah.
about how important this conversation of celebration is, because that really is the thing that's going to help you stop and pause for a moment and give yourself some grace, not just keep going and burning yourself out. Like, it's not about getting to the top of the mountain just to get to the top of the mountain. It's getting to the top of the mountain so you can have an experience of what it's like to be up there, looking around, viewing it, taking it in, the breathtaking view that I could just imagine being on top of this beautiful mountain that you just created, and spend a little bit of time up there. Like, allow that to integrate before you try to go and get to the next one. This is really the thing that's going to help prevent self-sabotage as well.
Yeah, definitely. How do I go about this? You know what kicks in as well is after bringing in 100K last year and not being able to pay my taxes by myself is, oh my God, this is now big money coming in. What if the same will happen? How do I avoid that happening? And I have my tangible tools, like I'm applying profit first, for example, which means that I'm putting money uh, aside for taxes, for my salary. I'm paying the operational expenses from a separate bucket, or however we want to call it. But there has been, in my case, a tendency that there comes one point where, even though I have things in those buckets, I just go in there and wipe it all out for some reason, because I think that that will take me to the next mountain or something like that. I would say that the money that could sound like vanished from last year, it all went into good reasons, good places, and helped my growth and my company's growth. But how do I make sure? And I don't think now I'm not at the blame anymore, like this is gonna happen again. I'm trying to look at actually, okay, how can I keep this momentum, and how can I make sure that this time I'm a different person handling that? Because it does happen for me sometimes that, oh, things are going amazingly well. And without trying to blame myself for screwing it up again, I still want to be aware of that. Okay, this is not necessarily something that will last forever. And how do I make sure that maybe I'm asking too many questions at once here?
No,
but
no.
but yeah, how do I make sure that I don't fall into the same patterns I did before?
I love the question and I love the vulnerability in the question. And my question back to you before I answer is there a part of you that still feels like you need to struggle in some way? And there's a part of you that really is maybe afraid of what that next level of not struggling would look like. Like, what does
Mm.
your life look like if you never had to worry about money again? And is there a part of you that's resisting that?
There's definitely a part of it which is existing connections with people. Like, I already feel that with some people, there's already a disconnect at the level where I am. Because I keep saying this, like, even most basic stuff, like things don't happen to me, but they happen for me. And then they would go like, blah, blah, blah. and
Mm.
and it's there's this level of maybe possibly losing connections and not necessarily being ready uh to move on from that. What else? There is uh hmm this is such a good question. I don't think I'm afraid of not struggling, but I still connect this to I have to be working really hard to earn this, even what has already been paid. If I so I have been reading X is Easier Than 2X. I don't know if
Yep,
you've read that.
I have. Mhm.
Um and these last 2 weeks I've been going on so seriously about my 10X, and there is so much to let go of. And I know that I have to be going there, but I'm like, oh my God, if all that is done by my team, then what do I do? Yeah, this morning I just went for breakfast with my husband, and during that time, my team did amazing things. But yeah, I still need to get used to it because I still have the feeling that, oh, if I went for breakfast or if tomorrow I'm taking the afternoon off, then maybe I have to work a little bit on Saturday. But why? if I don't have to, then why? But it's in me. It's in me that, and it comes from family that we work hard for money. Money is earned with hard work. And what comes now with the family is that if I tell some people in my family this story, which I just told you about the new contract, they would be like, oh my God, with your money past, which they are unfortunately all really aware of, you have to be now even more careful because now it's even bigger, even more of a risk of you screwing it up again. So it's definitely there. It's all.
Yeah, and I see the pattern that's taking place. So there's how long would you say, before I go into that, how long would you say that you've had this belief of I have to work really hard in order to be successful?
Always.
Yeah.
But if I have to go back to a specific moment, I was 14 and my mom had the idea that I was ready to earn my own money. And I didn't want to do that, but she arranged students for me. So I was pretty advanced with my English, German. My mother tongue is Hungarian. I had an advanced level in these two languages, and my mom decided to get students for me. So I helped them with their classes. And it all went really well. And I was just telling her, wow, I made all this money and I didn't even have to work that many hours for that. And then what would she say? And she said, so be very careful with this money because what comes too easy goes really fast, and something
Mm.
like that. I think this is my first experience. I'm talking about the exact same thing, but now not about like a few bucks for a class, but let's say 60 or 100 or 200,000.
Wow. Okay. So I'm seeing a lot of through lines here. And I'm going to bring this home because the way that the nervous system works is essentially we all have a baseline that our nervous system creates when we're children. And it sounds to me as though from the time that you were little, right, your mom
Mm-hmm.
has had these beliefs about hard work equals success and what comes in can go out just as fast. And actually, more research is even showing that we inherit our mother's nervous system patterns. And so, even
Ooh.
sometimes, I know, I'm like, thanks a lot. So, my point with this, though, is that sometimes these protective patterns that we have, and I'll get to what that means here in a second, that the nervous system comes up and does, these look to us like self-sabotaging patterns. So, all of these things of like you making this money, but then getting rid of it, really what that has to do with is your nervous system's baseline of what it believes to be safe. And the reason that I say that is because anything to the nervous system that is familiar is deemed as safe, and anything that's unfamiliar is deemed as unsafe. And the reason that this is the case is the nervous system is tied to the oldest part of our brain, which is essentially wired for our survival. So our nervous system is not here to help us thrive, it's here to keep us alive and safe. And so if we were
Mhm.
living, let's go back to tribal times, right? Because that part of our brain has not evolved in humans beyond that to this point. So let's go back to tribal times and say that you were living in a tent, right? And you walked outside of your tent and then you saw a bear or you saw a person from another tribe that was unfamiliar or you didn't know what it was. Essentially, your nervous system is designed to activate. Your fight or flight will kick in because you either have to fight off this threat or run away from it. Well, the way that the mind works is it doesn't know the difference between a real or a imagined scenario. And so
Mhm.
if there is a belief system or a protective pattern within the nervous system that believes that hard work equals success and that's the only way there, or what comes in quickly goes, or we need to be gripping on to money really tightly, or there's any
Mhm.
forms of scarcity and fear, what essentially your nervous system picked up is that money, handling money, and especially in this way, you have to be really careful because it's a threat. And so,
Mhm.
no matter how much you're bringing in, and this happened to me too, so I know this from firsthand experience, no matter how much you're bringing in, this is a way that it shows up as you will find a way to spend it until you can expand your nervous system's capacity to hold on to the wealth that you're bringing in, which means that you need to make money safe to your nervous system. And once money views the nervous system as safe, then it not only will help you magnetize more of it, but you will be able to hold on to it. You'll be able to grow it. You'll be able to, create a legacy.
Mhm.
But this is very common for someone who grew up in the type of setting that you did, because again, this is still very alive in the body, even though the mind, the conscious mind says, of course, I'm not afraid of money. I want it. Like, give me all of it, right? But
Yeah.
if this pattern is showing up where every time you receive it, it goes out just as quickly as it came in, that tells me that there is a protective program that's running behind the scenes that absolutely is repelling money, or it's allowing you to bring it in. So you've done the work on receiving more, but now we have to
Yeah.
do the work on holding more. Does that make sense?
Mhm. Yes, about so you said I have to be able to hold, did you say hold space for more? For actually holding, because what I also want to keep being abundant. So how do I grow this capacity of my system, whatever system you said it was? Sorry if I'm not saying everything the correct way. So let's say I'm able to expand and I'm able to hold on to more, but I also want to do it in a way that I don't, because I know if I just close down, like, "Ooh, now I have to hold on to this," then that can also be counterproductive, right?
Yeah, we don't want to close anything down. We definitely don't want to close anything down. But essentially, so that's the work that I do in the world. This is the work that I do with my clients, is helping them to essentially expand their nervous system's capacity to receive, because
Mm-hmm.
this is what allows you to not only make more, but save more, and then finally live more. Be in those top of the mountain experiences where you're actually allowing yourself to enjoy and be fulfilled by the work that you're doing and the money that's coming in, and be supported, and being able to take time off, like you said, and take rest and go to breakfast with your husband and allow your team to support you and allow the people in your life to support you. That's
Mm.
really what our birthright is. Like, we didn't come to this earth just to work, until we're like, we didn't come here to work our butts off and then have no experiences of joy and pleasure. That's not why we
Mm.
came here. So we've just been programmed and conditioned to believe that this is a normal way of being. So essentially, what expanding your capacity to receive looks like is all of those protective patterns. Let's talk about it like it's a computer, okay? Because let's say you're like a computer and you have been programmed in certain ways. So in order for this computer to work, there's a program running in the background, right? There's lots
Mm-hmm.
of programs that are running in the background. And essentially, the work is looking at the different programs that are running and determining which ones you want to keep and which ones you don't. Because let's say this is a hypothetical made up scenario, but let's say a computer has a scarcity program and an abundant program, but we install the
Mm-hmm.
scarcity program first. Well, the scarcity program is going to be running, and even if we put the program of abundance on top of it, they're going to be counterproductive. They're going to be doing two different jobs and like basically
Yeah.
nullifying each other. And so that's what happens when, we receive all this money, but then we spend it all. It's like those two programs are fighting each other.
Mm.
The work that we need to do then is uninstall. So we need to release and get rid of the scarcity program. And
Mm.
then we can operate on the abundant. And that's done through the deep inner work. So that's again part of the work that I do with my clients in the world. But one of the biggest things that I would start to have you do now is really just sitting with the part of you that feels unsafe to hold on to this money, unsafe to hold on to good things, unsafe to hold on to the experiences and the freedom and the stillness that you so deeply
Mm-hmm.
crave. And it's really, there's a book called, have you read The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
it talks
Big
about upper
favorite.
limit, right? This
Yeah.
is an upper limit. So essentially, we all have, and if you guys have not checked that book out, definitely do that if you're interested in
Oh,
this
yeah.
topic. But essentially, we all have a limit to the goodness that we will allow into our lives, including money and abundance. And so when
Mm.
you've hit that upper limit, basically, when you've hit that edge, the nervous system is automatically designed to not want to expand upon, and keep going outside of your comfort zone. It wants to retract. It wants to come back
Mm-hmm.
to safety. It wants to come back to what it's comfortable with and what's normal. So there are absolutely ways to expand this. It's called your window of tolerance. It's expanding your window of tolerance to be able to hold on to good things. And I think this is where our industry maybe gets this a little bit wrong, is that we're not actually healing in order to deal with and handle the bad things. We're
Mm-hmm.
healing so that we can hold more of the good. And that's the work that we're doing in the world, is healing ourselves so that we can actually come back to who it is that we are, which is our birthright of being able to exist in the fullness of what it means to be a human and have experiences and joy and love and happiness and money and have your needs met in a way that feels really fulfilling. And so I
Mm-hmm.
hope that answers your question, but that's the work. That's literally the main thing that I see people struggling with, and that's the main work that we do, is expanding that capacity to receive.
Yeah, I loved your metaphor about uninstalling the program. It's so funny. I caught myself these days on since January, everything I since the second part of January, everything I wanted has been working out. And I realized last week that I had money in all those buckets. Like I'm so used to not having money in my buckets or jars or bank accounts that this felt like it's a new experience. And I'm like, I had the feeling last week, I'm not sure if I'm able to handle this, but I wasn't. It was so crazy and it feels stupid, but now I'm realizing it's exactly this. It's something that I'm not used to, and I need to find the best ways to make it the norm. Otherwise my instinct will drive me back to what I have been doing and experiencing decades now.
100%. I look at it like can you imagine that you're standing at the edge of the forest and there
Mm-hmm.
is a path that you have walked many, many times before. And this path leads down to familiarity, where it's going. And it leads to not having more than enough, not experiencing overflow, having a little bit, more than enough, maybe sometimes, but not always, and then, having this kind of scarcity in your life, and you know where that path leads. But then there's this new path that you want to cultivate and create, but it's not paved yet. There's just
Yeah.
trees. And you have to walk down this path now with a machete or whatever it is, and you got to like, cut down these branches, and you got to get rid of this stuff, and you got to start to move. And it's going to feel a lot easier to go down the old path. The second that you come to
Yeah.
that crossroads, it's going to feel easier because that path is already paved. But guess what happens over time? The more that you do this work is like you're going down the new path, and now eventually you're going to have a clear path that way. And then this one's
Hmm.
going to start to overgrow. And eventually this will be your new way of living. This will be your new norm. But a lot of people
Hmm.
give up before they fully pave that new path because it's scary, it's unknown, it's hard, it doesn't feel good. And, it doesn't always feel good, right? So when we go down that
Yeah.
path, that's the one that leads us to everywhere that the things that we want to actually achieve in life. But many people stop well before because they don't understand that concept and they just want to go to what's easy.
Yeah, and I think this will be a great reminder for me. I started this whole journey to be able to go down this path and not confirm with what I already had. If I did, then I could have stayed where I was 10 years ago. So it's
Um,
also like I've been working so hard for a decade to be in this, and now my next job is to be able to embrace it. It's finally here, so it's time to yeah, embrace it and go with it and accept that and celebrate that. Wow, it's happening. We are it's also like, and sorry, I want to be mindful of our time, I know it. But it's like, it's also when you are a new entrepreneur and you can be in that phase for a couple of years. You are so used to dreaming, 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 and then trial and error, and mostly error, 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 dreaming more, error, error, error. And when it's finally, wow, it's working, you are like, shit, I don't have a way to handle this.
Right. Because remember the story that I said earlier, which was I learned the exact same thing that you did, which was hard work equals success. And so when I came into my business, I was like, yeah, we just do the same thing. We just work really, really hard. And then when it got to a place, I'll never forget, like I woke up a few years into this work and like it's just one of those things that kind of just happens. Like you said, like you've been manifesting it. So it happened and it kind of is like, oh, like that was easier than I thought. And I just woke up one day and I'm like, I have this incredible, semi-passive income that doesn't require a whole heck of a lot from me, that supports my lifestyle, and I really don't have to work if I don't want to. And I'm just sitting here thinking, nobody needs anything from me. Nobody's, I'm not getting 50 million phone calls a day. I can just be, and I can just exist, and I can just go to yoga if I want, and I can just meditate if I want, do breath work if I want. And I was like, this is weird. Like, what's happening here? Like, I don't know how much I like this. Like, this is all I ever wanted. And then I get here and I'm like, this feels really awkward. And like, this
Mm.
shouldn't be this easy. So I totally do get
Yeah.
it, but it will absolutely solidify and embody over time. The more that you allow your nervous system to feel safe with it, the more that you embrace it, the more
Hmm.
that you accept it, the more that you allow that money to sit there in those buckets and don't touch it. And then when you go and open your bank account and you look at them, just feel gratitude for it and see those numbers rising and see those numbers growing, and like allow yourself to just embrace and bring your nervous system into the equation and allow that conversation to emerge. I don't know how much work you've done around that, but it is really important. So get your nervous system on board with this is my new,
Yeah.
and it's okay to hold on to money. It's okay to keep money. And these are going to be things that will become your new norm over time.
Yeah, I realized I did do some of this work, like even last night. I was looking at all those accounts, and I looked at my debt and I compared where it was a few months ago, where it is now, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. I'm so grateful for that going down. And I was looking at my new savings, which are
Mm.
actually growing, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. So yeah, I think I just have to keep on going with that, even if
Yes.
it's just repeating the same thing. Um, yeah. Wow. Wow. This is fantastic. If someone is out there listening to these and they are like, wow, I really want to hear more from this amazing individual. Where can I find her? Where can people reach out to you or just follow you and listen to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm on all of the social medias as Rise with Rebekah. So you can find me on there. I hang out mostly on Instagram. I also have a podcast. It's the Soul Powered Podcast. So you can definitely come hang out with me there as well. And if you check out my Instagram, you will see in the bio that there's some free resources for you. So you can definitely go, or you can just go to Rebecca.com. But there's free resources, a free ebook, there's a training where I talk about my method and why this work is so important and how to start reprogramming your nervous system now and expanding your nervous system's capacity to receive now.
Mm.
So you can definitely go check all of those things out. But the main thing is, like, I love connecting with other humans. So if you want to shoot me a DM, let me know that you found me here. I would love to chat, learn more about you. It might take me a couple days to get back, but I do always get back to my DMs. And yeah, I'd love to connect with you if you want to learn more.
Amazing. I will add in all those links into the show notes. And now understanding or at least you are giving me the feeling that you are at a beautiful, amazing place. To close off, would you share with me what is next for you for the coming years? What is there? Is it just keep on going with this, or is there a specific goal? What is next for you?
Yeah, love the question. So my ultimate goal is to help bring money back into the hands of those of us who are going to use it for good. I think that we live in a system where there's lots of greed and power hungry individuals who are not using their money to serve the world in a positive way. And so the work that I do is not about money, it's about bringing power back into the hands of those of us who are actually going to change the world in a positive way. That's why this work is so important to me, because I see far too many people who have these great ideas, who have these incredible businesses where they can help people in such immense ways, but they're hiding. They're programmed to stay small and to stay stuck. And so my goal is to help them to move out of that. And so I'm creating a community and, a collective that we are doing this together in the world. So I have different programs and, ways of working with me. But ultimately, the goal is in everything that I do is to help raise the wealth consciousness of the collective so we can all change the way that we do things in the world. And I know that might sound like a big thing, right? But they say that those who are crazy enough to believe that they can change the world are the ones who actually do. And I'm just that delusional. So that's my goal.
Wow, this is beautiful, and I didn't feel it sounded crazy. I was like, this is totally normal. This woman's gonna do it. She's already doing it. I can see her do it. I trust that with this episode, I have been able to contribute to this a little bit, to bring it to more people and bring it on people's radar who might not have been even thinking about this area being of importance in their lives. And I will keep an eye out, and I think I will be observing your community expand. And thank you so much for your time today. This has been amazing, and I think this is fantastic value to whoever has listened to us today.
Thank you so much, Esther. And I appreciate your willingness to spread the word and to have me on here today. I just appreciate it so much. So thank you. And thank you all for listening. And I'm so excited that we can get this message out into the world.
Thanks, Rebekah.